Biohazard Babe, and it is Tuesday. So we have new scenery again, just to let you know. It is because I finally got my RV back over the weekend. It's been super stressful. I apologize for the delay again in making video. I apologize. I was house sitting and dog sitting for a really good friend, and then all of a sudden it was a fast and furious phone call. Your RV is going to be coming, and it is. Okay, so it's been kind of stressful recently the last 2 days, and I'm gonna be honest, I'm dealing a little bit with depression and anxiety. I seriously don't wish it on anybody. But that's our topic of the day, is depression. And again, it is something I do not wish on anybody because it comes in all forms. And for any and everybody, it is different. It can look completely different to everybody. Completely. To you, it can look and feel, taste, smell, and even sound completely different. Complete to you than it does to me. You know, my anxiety today has been kind of in my chest and a tightness wound up, and it's been there all day, and I can't get it to go away. And I've been asking why. There's nothing that is there that should make me nervous, but maybe it's the new space. Still, it's the new space. It's about unloading it's unloading the whole storage unit. It's doing this by myself. I'm a little, down about that. Yeah, sure. I wish there's somebody here to help me, or I had a significant other. I don't have my animals. My ESA is with my parents. So I'll be getting my cat and chinchilla tomorrow. They'll be moving in. So it'll be interesting to see their reaction. But I love it so far. It's different. It's very different. It's from an apartment. Like, this is different. This is new. It's an experience. So we have a whole thing to learn. But I really want to focus a lot of our time on depression. I again have been battling depression since I can remember. And for me, when I say that I can remember, it will then turn back into the word I would say, quote unquote, sadness. I remember being sad for a very long time. I can remember being sad since I was in second grade, which is when I don't remember, but vaguely, and my mother has written down that is when I was talking about ending my life. And I don't remember this, although I do remember being very sad. I do. I remember crying a lot during those years. I know that my hormones were changing. I know that I matured at a very young age. I matured in 5th grade. Now, a lot of others have too now, but back then in the 90s, that was kind of rare. I was the only girl in 5th grade that had a C cup, a breast, and my period, which was embarrassing to me because I didn't understand, but I had urges, like sexual urges already, and I didn't understand them. Like, I didn't understand what, but I knew but at the time, I knew I liked boys, but I also knew I was attracted to girls. I've always been very open. That's why everybody's always called me a hippie. I remember being sad for a really long time, and then it really developed into depression. I don't remember that word. I don't think we ever used that word. My parents, me, we didn't use that word until I would say probably college, to be honest. So high school was really hard for me. My senior year, I talked about that in my last video. It was a big breakup. I lost a lot of friends. I didn't know girls could backstab like that. That was a really tough year for me. I learned a lot about humans. I learned a lot about girls. I learned a lot about just human nature in general. About family, my grandmother being sick, my grandfather being sick, how it seems so unfair, and nobody wanted to go to homecoming with me, which didn't make any damn sense either at the time. Still doesn't make sense, actually. And I'm like, I guess when I look back, I'm like, it was really hard. I was depressed, but I didn't know I would never have thought of defining myself as such. I was very angry. We'll say that. I was very angry. I was a very angry person, and so I was doing things that were not good for me, but I was not depressive or, So, and didn't really come into play, I would say, until my first year of college. I wasn't too far away. I got into the college of my choice. I'm not tooting my own horn or anything here. I was top 10% in my high school. But I mean, I was top 10% the first time around, which was like early September. Okay, so yay, I worked my butt off really hard to get that. But then, a lot of people had slacked. And so then when they saw the 10% who got the 10%, everybody worked their butt off to try to push us out, and I did get pushed out. I think I was the top 15, which was fine with me. I was like, I got into my school. That's all that mattered. So graduating at top 15 I was like, that's fine with me. So I, I was in school, and I regret it. I changed my major. The major that they put me in was actually my second choice. Obviously, things happen for a reason. Probably should have stayed in that. I would have wondered what my life would have been like if I had listened and stayed in that. It was forensics. I actually tried to get back into that later when I was changing degrees, and it would have cost an extra year of school, and my parents were like, no. I didn't get to do forensics. I don't regret it. I mean, I do, but I don't. I don't know what it would have done. I don't know if I would have liked it. I really don't. But back to freshman year. So freshman year, I was going into what they have a program that is dedicated to the arts and sciences for video game design, and they are very aligned with Pixar and DreamWorks, and many of the graduates go on to work for them. And so that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to work in video game design. However, I was more of the artistic side. I'm more of the artistic. I'm not so the first year was very difficult. Oh my god, it was so difficult. I don't even know. It was all art based mainly. And so we were mainly in the architecture building, and we were mainly there all day and night. I slept there some nights, and we were there till like 3, 4 in the morning, and the grad students literally did sleep there. We would hear them shower. I was like, oh my god. And they would teach us, and we would literally see them in the same clothes, and I was like, oh my god, that's what we're gonna have to do, because we knew we would have to go maybe to grad school if we wanted. I wanted to go to Japan to work because I was studying Japanese, and I know Japan. I still know Japan. I studied Japanese regardless, because I love Japanese. I love the language. I love the country. I haven't been. I was supposed to go. I was scheduled to go. COVID hit. I was so upset. I had it all planned out with my friend. And, yeah. COVID hit. But actually, I'm glad I didn't go with her, because it would have been all about her, so. Anyway, freshman year was, so yeah, those projects, man, were hard and intense. And let me just think. Art is subjective. How can you grade art? I still don't understand that. Like, even with a syllabus, you can't grade art. You can't. Like, you just fucking can't. You just can't. I'm sorry, you can't. And then I remember, whatever. I just remember having a panic attack for the first time, okay? And I didn't know what it was. I just remember my brain going, oh, I remember going like that. Like, and my friends were like looking at me like, and I'm like, and I'm repeating to you what I go through sometimes with an panic attack. I went and I sat down and I just started rocking. I had to go in a different room and like in a corner, and they had to come find me because they were like, where did she go? And they couldn't believe I was they were like, are you okay? And I'm like, no, don't touch me. Don't touch me. I'm like, I can't do this. I can't do this project. This project is due tomorrow. I can't do this. And that's what I kept saying. They were like, calm down. And I was like, I can't. This is due tomorrow, and we're nowhere even near done. It was, a lot of us broke down. Like, a lot of us broke. We had a lot of people leave the program. I did not leave I finished my year. It was a hard year. when I had my first panic attack, I called my mom. I was like, I do not know what this is. And also at the same time, I was dating somebody. I was dating the same guy that I started dating in high school. This is my senior year. The guy who dated, who was working at the movie theater, who I shouldn't have dated at all. Alex was not good for me. He was from the other side of the tracks, and I don't judge anyone. I really don't. He was. And he didn't treat me right. He didn't. And when we should have split when he went off to the Navy. If it was meant to be, we should have let it happen naturally with him coming back from boot camp or whatever. But we didn't. We stayed in a relationship through boot camp, through everything. And I knew he was cheating on me, but he wouldn't. It was just, things weren't, I knew, it just, things, as women, girls, whoever is watching this, we do have intuition. We do. Our gut, your heart, somewhere inside is going to tell you something. Listen to it. And they're going to say something opposite most of the time. I can't tell you what to do, but I can tell you that your intuition is usually right. And I hate to say that. But when, I asked, I had sent him something for Valentine's Day. I don't remember. And I asked, where is my Valentine's Day present? I got this really weird answer of like, oh, it got lost in the mail. And my other guy friend was like, he never sent you anything in the first place. And I was like, probably right. I mean, it didn't click that my boyfriend wouldn't send me something for Valentine's Day, but you're right. And then he did, when he did, and it was like over the top. Like, he went to Zales, and I was like, why are you buying me this necklace I'm never gonna fucking wear? Like, but I had to wear it, And, like, I hate jewelry, like that, obligation jewelry. Like, no, I want it to actually mean something, and I want you to actually think about me and what would I actually like. Not just, oh my god, I feel obligated, I have to go buy her a necklace. No, I want you to think, because I only wear certain jewelry, okay? So, like, really, only certain jewelry. So, you gotta think about what am I really gonna wear, and why. So, I just knew things were going wrong, okay? Freshman classes were hell. I was trying to pass. Someone who's not really good at math at all, okay, was trying to pass physics. I was even going for extra tutoring with my classmates. We're paying for tutoring. I couldn't understand this thing. Even the teacher I thought was cool, because, he was trying at the, this was like when Walking Dead just started. Oh my god. And like, he was just like talking about like shooting a zombie through a window at a trajectory. Okay, I thought he was cool. I tried talking to him. He was an ass. He talked like Kermit the Frog. Anyway, I literally had to, that was the only class I've ever failed. I will say I did fail a class. So I had to drop it. Because I knew it was gonna fail. It was gonna bring down my GPA. Like, and that was when I knew too, like, I had to, like, I had so much anxiety and depression. Like, I was depressed. I was like, okay, my parents were upset about my grade. It's just everything. My parents were coming up too, also to see me, and they're arguing the entire time, because I told you, my mom and dad were having different schedules, so they weren't seeing each other, because my mom's taking care of my grandparents who are ill, and my dad's over here who has a really weird, just because he can, a weird schedule. And so they're not meshing at all right now. And so they come to see me, and on the ride up or whatever, they're having huge ass fights. And then, so at the Mexican food table, because this is when we usually gather for Mexican food, they're freaking yelling at, and I'm just like, oh my fucking god, why are you even here? Like, leave me alone. So I'm going through depression. I'm going through all this shit alone. And I'm like, finally, I was like, okay, I gotta talk to my doctor. So at the time, I was still going home to our family physician. We were just seeing, like, the family, a family practitioner. Okay. She was nice. I mean, I liked her, but this was, like, the first time, she did my well woman. She was just, okay, she was just a family practitioner. Okay, so I talked to her about it. I was like, I feel like I'm dealing with some depression and anxiety, and I had a panic attack, and it was bad, and I'm also dealing with some suicidal thoughts. Well, okay, that didn't, she's like, okay, so she basically prescribed me medication. It's all trial and error. Okay, yeah, I think the first one I ever tried was Zoloft. And now, for those of you not from the 90s, but it was a little cute little bouncy ball. And he wasn't smiling, and then he smiled. Anyway, at first I didn't like it because it made me really tired in the afternoons. So I ended up taking it at night so that I was staying awake, and during the day, like, I had to figure out my meds by myself. And I didn't really help. It didn't. And then I thought, so then she changed me to Wellbutrin. I mean, we're talking like, okay, I tried. It's not helping. Okay. Finally, it comes to a head with the boyfriend. He's an asshole. Yes, Alex, you are. Because he's coming home, and I know he's coming home. Well, he wanted me to get on birth control or whatever so that we can have sex. Well, I find out that I cannot be on hormones because it affects my body. I can't. I lose all sex drive. Like, I just don't want to be on hormones. My parents will not allow me to get an IUD. I'm still under their care. They won't let me get one. So I'm like, well, no, we can't have sex. Like, sorry. I mean, like, okay, you're my boyfriend. I don't know. He calls me on the phone, and he's like, so we're going to be sleeping in a tent with you for this, it was like a music festival. And I was like, okay, well, I just need to let you know, like, yeah, that hasn't happened. He's like, you're on birth control, right? I was like, no, like, that hasn't happened because I don't like the effects of it. He's like, basically, long story short, I know he had talked to his friend, who I actually had a crush on, and he said over the phone that I was a bad girlfriend for not giving him my virginity. Now, before this, I had literally prayed to God, who I had strayed from. I'm not joking you. I had strayed from God for all these years. And literally, I had prayed to God the night before. And I said, on my knees in my dorm room, and I said, I need your guidance. What to do about Alex. I need a sign. And then when he said that, I don't know, but I got a shiver down my spine, and I knew. And I looked up, and I was like, okay, I guess that was my sign. And I just remember saying into the phone, I think we need to break up. Because I can't believe you just said that to me. I'm not going to let any man say that to me. Boy, man, whatever. No. Yeah, Alex Porter, horrible. And he got married. I mean, whatever. Okay. He made me do some really bad, atrocious things. I'm not gonna repeat. But it was always about him. And, so finally, I'm on meds, and I break up with him, and I think, things are gonna get better, and they kind of do, I changed majors, I finally changed majors to, history with the film minor. I start out with film minor, and then end up with the English minor, because it's just, I love to read and write. So just during that time, like, I, still was just on regular meds, just going to see regular doctor, life got hard. Depression, it sucks. It wasn't until, so I'm going to skip a lot because we don't have time, but it wasn't until I came back to be a young professional that I came back and found a psychiatrist here locally. At the time, you needed like a referral. I went to go see like a regular doctor here, and she did refer me because she was like, okay, I see your past. And I was like, yes, I can have it. Everybody sends you everything, all the meds I've ever tried. And I need someone to help me figure this out because I know there's more to it than this. And so she did. She also, was trying to help me with the therapist. And I've tried therapy a lot. I also tried therapy. My parents forced me to try therapy when I was a kid, and I didn't really understand it. Reasoning behind it, didn't really understand what it was doing, didn't understand, and I still don't understand that when I was back then what that was for. I did try therapy free services in college on campus. Wasn't for me. The woman just I did not click with her. I felt like honestly it was a waste of her time, like how she looked at me. She never gave me anything insightful. It was after my really, really big breakup in my junior year, and I was not doing well at all. And I had gone back to my doctor about meds, and this is when I'm throwing up all the time. Like I can't eat, I can't sleep. I can't do anything. I'm barely functioning because I've lost the love of my life. And so I'm trying therapy, these services that they're offering, and she's just looking at me like I'm stupid. And I'm like, okay, I can't do this either. So I quit doing that, and I just start reading like I normally do, trying to find answers. So it wasn't, until coming back as a young professional after scrubbing. When I was scrubbing, that's when it was scrubbing. When I was going to school for surgical technology, my mom, thought, okay, why don't you go see a psychiatrist in town? And this was in my mid-20s, and so that was the first time that I saw an actual psychiatrist. And she helped me regulate some meds, but it didn't really help as much as I hoped. And then I was trying to find a therapist that also would work, and it was really hard to find one that I connected with. And it really is hard to find, and I really, for that, I say continue to try until you find someone you feel comfortable with. Because I tried plenty of people. Like I said, I found one that I literally was paying almost $300 an hour, and at the end, like, I was showing her my insecurities about, at the time, not having someone in my life, and she literally said at the end, well, maybe it's because you're fat. I just paid you $300 to make me feel worse about myself than when I came in. So, yeah, no. I wasn't into therapy. I was like, therapy sucks. Psychiatry? Okay, maybe. I don't know. But they weren't getting the mix down, right? And I didn't like that. Anytime I would go in to see the psychiatrist, I was always seeing the person right underneath her. And I was like, and then she was having to go into the room next door to ask questions like, oh, does this mix? And I'm like, okay, why am I not seeing the doctor then? This is weird. So when I moved back to being a professional, that's when I really, really discovered psychiatry, depression for what it is, anxiety for what it is, and yeah, I really figured it out. I found a doctor who I highly, highly, highly recommend. He changed my life forever. I will always and forever think this man, Dr. Jason Boley, was a godsend for me. He was who I was referred to for my psychiatrist, and he listened. I never had a psychiatrist who listened and who actually wanted to get to know me as well as help with the medications. It was like a therapist, and he was always so welcoming. I never felt shunned. I never felt judged. I never felt anything like I had before. So I know that if you have ever felt those things, there is someone out there. There is a practitioner out there for you. You just haven't found him yet. Because I wasn't expecting to find him. I just remember, like, almost crying. Like, I cried when he left. Like, so he ended up leaving. My depression got so bad at one point. So this is, I was 29 at this point, and COVID hits. My Japan trip's canceled. I start dating somebody again that I shouldn't. This was at the very, very beginning of COVID, and I'm 29. He was younger than me, and I never had heard the terms of empath and narcissist. So, unbeknownst to me, here I am being an empath. There's narcissist. And we have a very, very, very short, brief, but very much heated relationship where it goes from like 0 to I'm gonna marry you to I'm gonna also kill you. In like 6 months, very abusive, very, very abusive relationship. Yeah, it was very bad. It was very abusive. I was very depressive during this time. This young man really made my life a living hell. I really hope he gets help. I think he needs to be diagnosed. All I can say is that I just hope he gets help. He comes from a family that I can't talk about it. So, all I can do is, so that's part of that family. So anyway, And so at that point in my life, I really wanted to kill myself. And so me and my mom, we sat down with Dr. Boley and we were like, what is the next step here? What do you do? And it was ECT, which I was not expecting. ECT, what is that? And so he goes on to explain what it is. It's electroshock therapy. And we weren't expecting that because your immediate reaction, of course, is, oh my God, the scary pictures you see are the scary images from the old movies, right? No, it's not like that at all. It's actually very well done under local anesthetic with doctors, with an anesthesiologist, with nurses. I mean, it's very well controlled. You go for a certain amount of treatments and they monitor everything, see how many seizures you undergo. I don't know. I mean, all I know is that after so many treatments, I felt better. That's all I know. And at the time, that boyfriend did not like the fact that I was getting better. He didn't like that because I was really trying to help him, but he wasn't wanting to get help. I don't think enough. He wasn't liking that I was. Because at the same time, while I was getting this ECT, I had to, it was mandatory, group therapy. That's how I felt about that. I was like, seriously? So I sat down in that group. I was like, literally, fuck this shit. That's what I said. And I was like, I am just going to sit here and I'm going to vomit my guts out to these people. Because you know what? I don't know them. I'm never going to see these people again after these treatments. And I'm just going to. Well, let's just see what happens if I actually do therapy. That's what I said. I was like, let's see what happens if I just do it. And, I sat, right next to the therapist that came in. And she comes in wearing these, Doc Marten boots, badass chick. I'm like, who's she? She smells like cigarettes. Looks like she's in a metal band, which she actually is. And I'm like, okay. So here we go talking about Buddhist monks. And, I think she's, as cool as hell. So I remember talking the first day. I don't remember what we talked about, but I think I talked about insecurities with that boyfriend because of how much money how much money his daddy has. He ain't got no money. His daddy has got money. How much money, and it's just always putting me down. Especially in the kitchen because I'm a great cook. Oh, okay, well I'm not. Okay, because I don't know how to cook like Guy Fieri who cooked in your kitchen. Anyway, shit. I was like, okay, so therapy, group therapy, I did. I met some great people. We all came from different walks of life. We all did. Everybody in this freaking circle. But you know what? I opened up, and they started to too. And we all came from different walks. Some people here that were here for drugs. Some people were here involuntarily. Some people were here for addiction. Some people, it was, all different reasons. And I'm like, okay, let's just talk about it. Well, alright, I'm here because it's this, and I'm getting this done. Because I wanted to kill myself. And I said it. I said I wanted to kill myself. I was at that peak where I was going to do it. And so, depression sucks. But it can be managed, and it can be. I'm just so grateful for that because, and that day coming out, I remember smiling in that wheelchair and knowing something was gonna happen that day, just with how he was looking at me. And that's for another day. That's a whole nother story. But back to depression. Then I went with a long time with the med cocktail that Dr. Boley had put me on. And until I actually left a job that I shouldn't have, thinking that the job that I was going to be going back to was going to be better, and that my old coworker was going to be the same person I remembered her as, and I think vice versa, same with her. But that wasn't the case. And the person in charge of that department was different, and we didn't get along. And when I tried to mention that I was going to submit a ADA, request for one day to work at home. This gentleman basically, and this happens in academia, I mean, he's a professor, and he just looked at me like I was dumb. And I hadn't come out as autistic. I hadn't been diagnosed. But I was telling him because of my diagnosis of depression and high anxiety, I was requesting one day to work at home. And he basically shut me down because of that. And then after that, he just stopped basically treating me like a human. So basically every day after that, which was like my second day at work, my coworker was a bitch to me. I could never do anything right for her. Couldn't even get the goddamn cake. Like, I couldn't even get monthly birthday cake right. I mean, it was like one thing after another. And I literally did. I was having such a hard time with everything. Like, it wasn't making sense. I can't think about. So then I was really upset that I had left my job for this job. And I stayed too long. There was no way I could go back and ask for that job back. And I just felt like crap every day, and I did make mistakes. I did do something that was not me. It was under, and I do agree with this, I was highly medicated at this point. I was now under the care. Dr. Bowley had left. It was very sad when he left. Like I said, I almost cried. I did cry. I gave him a thank you note. It was hard. I was transferred under the care of the man who actually taught him, I guess, in his days of schooling. And so under this gentleman, he just kept upping my meds. He's not very in tune with me. Right now, there really isn't anything I can do. There's so many people that need mental help, that I've tried to switch and they won't let me because there's so many people that need help that they're like, you're already under his care. Sorry. But I was just getting my meds upped and upped. And so I was finding myself not being me. People were like kind of being like, okay, you're not acting like yourself. And I was finding myself being angrier and angrier due to the fact of work because of how I was being treated. I was finding myself being angrier and angrier and doing things that weren't me. It didn't end well with that department, and I did end up having to leave. And I regret a lot of things, but I think everything happens for a reason. And so I left. And I think honestly it's for the best. Working in academia is very difficult, especially as staff. And that's a whole I can go on and on. I've written an article. It's not published, but if you're interested, I've worked as staff for many years at a university, and you were treated like shit by faculty. It's kind of like being a scrub tech in the OR and being treated like shit from a surgeon. However, surgeons actually save lives. Professors don't. So all I'm saying is, if you're in academia, please treat your staff with more respect. They do a lot for you. They really do. Even making copies, that takes time. It really does. And if they don't have a student worker, it takes time out of their day, because it really does. Like, it usually took me 40 minutes to do a scan for one professor. So I'm just saying. And so, yeah, I was working and I was asked to leave. And so when I didn't take it well. I didn't. And I did mention I mentioned to my therapist that I had a plan. And I told her the plan. Never do that unless you are prepared to be picked up at your CrossFit gym in front of everyone, which is super embarrassing, by police officers. Yeah, that was super embarrassing, because the police came to my CrossFit gym, or box as we call it, and they came saying, we're looking for, and I'm like, oh my god, this is so embarrassing. And yeah, and it was involuntary at that point, and they had to take me for a psych. And I had never had that happen. I hated my therapist for a long time, because there was nothing I could do. My mom drove all the way here, like there was nothing she could do. They took me without telling her where I was going. They took me without telling me where I was going. I couldn't ask questions. They wouldn't tell me. They threw me in a room with someone who was already sleeping with nothing, not even a blanket. And I just remember sitting there all night on the edge of the bed waiting for them to bring me a blanket. And I crying because I was like, I don't know what the fuck is going on here. Like, everything looked like a mental, I was in a mental hospital. That's where I was. I was at a hospital. And let me tell you, you don't want to go there unless you have to go. It's very different, very different. And yeah, that was in my 30s. It was very embarrassing to have to tell people that, because for days, my phone was locked away. I couldn't text people. I couldn't let people know. I couldn't talk to people. They allowed us phone calls from like a payphone, but you had to know the number. So, okay, I know my mom and my dad's cell phone number, that's it. Or they had to know the number to call. It was hard. And I think I was in there for over a week. And I did, it was, and they detox, what people don't understand is, like, for me, going in, they thought I was a junkie because of how many meds I was on. They thought, like, oh, this girl's just a junkie because look at how many meds she's on. Look at how many meds are in her system. That wasn't my choice. That's why I told them to call my psychiatrist. Said, look, I didn't put myself on all these fucking meds. He did. And so they literally just hooked me off my meds. So here you are. It did end up having an addict reaction to me. That's what people were, because I was shivering, shaking, throwing up. I couldn't control I couldn't. And I needed a blanket at all times. And I was literally going through the motions of, detoxing my body from Xanax, actually. Xanax. I didn't know that Xanax could actually be that bad for you. But it is. So I will never do that Xanax again. I was on so much Xanax, they couldn't believe it. She said multiple people were like, you were on so much Xanax, you probably didn't even know what you were doing half the time. And that's what went back to work. And that's what it was. I didn't know what I was doing half the time because I had to up my meds so much because you all were driving me fucking insane. You wouldn't even let me do the ADA request. You made me feel like an idiot, which I'm not. So, in the end, it was just, they packed up my office. I'm sorry. I am apologetic for everything. That is how it is. I haven't been that suicidal since I got a job after that. And that job was, God, there were hard days too on that, But I did, while I was in there, luckily I did get detoxed because now I'm on completely different meds and I am on better meds. I feel more like myself. I feel better. And, I guess, sometimes, life is funny. Maybe I needed to go in. That's what, the only thing I could think of. And I met a lot of really good people while I was in there. It's interesting. And I met someone while I was in there, and we ended up, staying in touch. And I really did like him, and I wanted to help him. I wanted him to be, I saw potential in him. I really did. He was a really great guy. He was also suffering from, depression. He came from long side tracks, and he was also suffering from addiction. I can't believe, how many people really, it was hard to see someone so brilliant be so torn down by drugs. And for him, it was meth. And I couldn't, and I tried to help him afterwards. We both, when we got out, and I really did. I really cared about him. Yeah, Derek Burns. Derek Burns was a really great person. I knew that he probably wasn't ready for me. Someone like me, he needed, he was younger. He had a lot to learn, but I loved him. And basically a year after, I felt something really strange one day, and I got online 2 days, and then I found out that day he had passed, and he had gone home. He had been back with his wife, and I guess she was pregnant. So unfortunately, he was back drinking and on meth, and he hit he swerved into a tree and was ejected. And that was the same way we actually met, was he was ejected while doing meth, and he was sent to that hospital, and that's how we met. And so it was very heartbreaking for me to hear that's also how he passed away. Rest in peace, Derek, because you really, even though you did some really terrible things to me, you didn't deserve that. With depression, I think a lot of people don't understand that, especially for me. I lost when, and I jumped over this, but with my big breakup in college, and then all the years after the 8, however many years, until he got married, I did, I've lost my sense of my lack of pleasure, and I know people don't really understand that. A lot of my friends don't. I'm just now with the help, and it's helped with this blog, because I'm having to be creative, I'm having to make posts, I'm having to do all that stuff, and that's helping to help me be creative. That's helped me get out of my shell, because a lot of people would not understand that I lost the lack of pleasure for a lot of things. I used to find video games enjoyable. I still do. Don't get me wrong. I still love these things. I still collect them. But I can't find enjoyment in it. I can't, how do I word it? I don't move on them. So they'll just sit there. I want to do them. And most of the time it's because I'm either alone, or it's because I would like to do it with somebody. I don't want to be alone all the time. And, the loss of pleasure is anhedonia, and that's the word for it. It's the clinical term. And there are 7 types of depression. That's the one that you probably you hear about all the time, and they describe it as major depressive disorder. That's what I have been diagnosed with. That's what most people are. You also have atypical disorder. You have bipolar, postpartum depression, which is real, persistent depressive disorder, premenstrual, which I have also been diagnosed with, which sucks. It happens before your period, and sometimes when it's coming, and sometimes you don't. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. It sucks. It's like you want to kill somebody, and at the same time, not. It's horrible. It really is. It makes you want to cry, for no reason. I think if I could go back in time, tell my ex about the day I cried, I cry, damn it. I cry. Guys, understand that we cry. Boys, we cry, God. And then there's seasonal affective disorder, and that's for people who live up north, which when there's, when you're stuck inside all the time and there's snow out, you need the sun lamps because you're not getting enough vitamin D. And I know I don't get enough vitamin D. I just got vitamin D the other day because of going out and finding all this stuff in the trash. And, another thing that people don't think of when they think of depression is hygiene. They don't think of that, but I did. And you've seen it on hoarders, okay, where it's bad. Oh my God, gross. Okay, where it's gotten really out of. Then I've seen it where it's just some people just cannot pick up their trash. Well, that's just dirty. I'm talking about, I have a fairly clean place. Everything is in a bag or in a tote, okay? I'm talking about I can be lazy, and there have been times when I wouldn't shower, or brush my teeth. It felt like too much. It's so interesting because all the rituals that I used to do, like wash your face in the morning, brush your teeth, put on serum, put on makeup, put on all the things that I used to follow. I don't know when that disappeared, but it disappeared. And it's really strange because I had a ritual. I think it went away with COVID, honestly. I stopped wearing makeup. I never really, really wore makeup in the first place. But I had a routine down for, minimal makeup. And I don't even do that hardly anymore. Just because it's why? But it should. So, yeah. Depression sucks. Depression is unmotivating. It's unmotivating. It doesn't get you out the door. No, it sinks you into the sofa. It doesn't want you to get out there and be productive. No, it doesn't. Depression is that icky tar that is going to stick on your feet and stop you from doing anything or everything. Yeah, that's what it is. If you've seen Fern Gully, it's that icky tar that's coming at everywhere. Okay, that's what it is. And it can affect your hygiene. Sometimes I need to be reminded, hey, brush your teeth. I know it sounds stupid, but I don't have a significant other. I don't have anybody here. My cat can't talk. Hygiene can be a real thing. And, showering and washing your hair, because, if you keep it up all the time, why wash it? Who cares? But I do. I really do. It's just, but, now as an adult, I'm having to figure out what is important. Because back then, I thought all these other things were important, and they're not. Some symptoms of the depression, which, we all probably know already. Low energy. Okay, yeah. Feeling sad or hopeless. Duh. Thoughts of self-harm or suicide. Irritability. Changes in eating behaviors. Sleep changes. Insomnia. Too much sleep. Because that's what I do. If I'm trying to get out of this world, I'm trying to escape. So I'm trying to escape. Because I don't want to be here. I don't want to deal with my ex's marriage and the fact that he's not with me. I don't want to deal with that thought, if it comes up. Because his name just appears everywhere. Oh my god, it's annoying. Loss of interest in hobbies or activities, anhedonia, difficulty concentrating or making decisions, and isolation. I do. I isolate myself, but I don't want to. It's a double-edged sword. And it is. It's a freaking double-edged sword, because it's I don't want to isolate myself, but I do. Because it's I don't feel like the people who I can talk to understand. But I know that, you need a safe space. You need a safe place to talk. First of all, you need, or you need to write it down. You need to get your emotions out. That's number one and foremost. You need to get it out, because depression just lingers. If you don't get it out, it'll just creep and creep and creep. And then, and then it gets to the point of, suicide. And that's why I really recommend, finding a therapist or a psychiatrist that you find you mesh with. And that could be online, because right now I don't see mine in person. I either talk to her on the phone, or we are virtual. There are a lot of virtual options nowadays. Just talking about what you're going through or your experience, like I said before, even to a hotline like 988 is great if you are going through something and you need to get it out. Writing it down is good. Journaling it, if that helps you. Getting it out that way, if that helps you. Recording it, if that helps you. However, whatever helps you best, I feel is what you should do. Because I'm doing this to try to help others know and be aware that they should not feel any sort of way about coming out with their story. I have a degree from a university, and I've been to a mental hospital. Yep. But you know what? Still a normal human. Doesn't make me any different. Doesn't make me weird either. Just because that happened to me. But I just want to say, again, this is a safe space, and I just want people to feel like they can talk about what is going on here. I want these videos to feel like you can. Please reach out, please. So that's the end of my second video on depression. Please let me know what you'd like to know more about. If there's something I missed, please let me know what you like to see more of. And, I'm here for you guys. I'm wanting to tell my story so that others feel like they can share theirs, especially the younger generation, or my generation, which a lot of us have not been diagnosed. And if you feel like you are undiagnosed, but you feel like you are neurospicy, I think that's great, and you're in the right place. Come back, and There will be more information. You'll have a good night, as always, and I'll see you next time.